Hi everyone. So the consonant sound T, T. I love teaching this sound because there are just so many surprises here. There are occasions when we should pronounce it and occasions when we shouldn't. And I'm about to share these with you. So one of the main problems with the pronunciation of the T consonant is that actually it can be overpronounced. And when I say that, I don't mean necessarily that it's too strong. Obviously, that happens too. So people with an Indian accent, they can be too focused on that that, and it becomes too strong, and the resonance of the whole word can come to the front of the mouth. So that's one thing. But what I actually meant there, really, when I was mentioning it, that it was overpronounced, was that it can be pronounced when it shouldn't be. So the interesting thing about British English is that we don't speak as we spell. And this can be quite a challenge because when you're looking at the written word, if you were to read aloud, you'll notice that there are T's all over the place and we're not necessarily meant to pronounce them all the time. So for instance, just a kind of standard example is a word like department or software. So there's a T, department. And we don't actually pronounce it. We actually use something called the glottis here in the throat, and we tighten that slightly, department. So there's like a little tiny stop between the where the T would be and going into the M. Same when you have a word like software. Software. I'm not going to say software because that would break up the whole word. We'd end up with a pause in the middle, and that's something that we really want to avoid. The same thing goes for a word ending which ends with a T when the beginning of the next word is a consonant. Okay, so for instance, that tree over there, that tree over there. So I'm not going to pronounce the T twice and say that tree over there. So instead, the two T's merge together. So that's one example when you've got a T followed by T. And another example could be that window over there, that window. So I could get away with saying that window, but it's quite hard work and it doesn't sound amazing. So it works much better if I just soften that window, that window. There's a kind of pause between the end of that and window. Otherwise I get that window, that window. So there's something there, but it's not the T. That window, that window. And I think it's probably something down here. That window, that window. I'm just tightening here. I'm pausing here before the word window. So that's the occasions when we shouldn't pronounce it. But there are occasions when obviously we do need to. Like for instance, in the middle of a word, when the T is followed by a vowel, like the word butter. You will meet people in England, from Essex, from London, and all different areas of the country who say butter. This can pose quite a confusing problem because it doesn't really sound like the same word. Butter, butter. But it is the same word. So it's useful to know that. So if you come across someone who's got a strong Essex accent or a strong South London accent, they might not pronounce their T at all, apart from at the beginning of a word. Obviously, we always pronounce the T at the beginning of the word. So in the middle of a word when it comes before a vowel, and also at the end of an idea, the end of a sentence. So look at that. A really good place to start is pronouncing T's at the end of a sentence because it's clearly necessary. And that's what we call in speech and drama terms, we call diction, having good diction. And I think it's this idea of having good diction that makes people overpronounce the T. They think, oh, I don't pronounce it enough, so I'll start pronouncing it all the time. So that's one error. When else? So we talked about when to pronounce it and when not to pronounce it. Another important thing is emphasis and really connecting with the words. And obviously when I connect emotionally with a word, I'm going to emphasize it. I'm going to make it stronger and louder to highlight it with my voice. And this causes me to actually pause slightly after the word. So pronouncing a T then is quite important really. So for instance, if I wanted to say an unusual name of a place, a person or a thing, then I would emphasize it. If I wanted to emphasize my emotions, I might say, someone might say to me, for instance, you're going then. I'm not. I'm emphasizing the word not. Or I'm not going. So whether or not it's at the beginning, middle, or end of a sentence, I can emphasize it if there's for some emotional reason I want to highlight that word. Okay, so that's pronunciation of T's. A lot of information. I'll write up a little cheat sheet for you so you can read through it as well. I think it's really important to hear these things from me as we are working on spoken communication. But at the same time, it's often more useful to have a little something that you can access and to look for and read. So I'll do that for you